You are not bad with money. You are exhausted. There is a specific kind of silence that happens late at night when you open your banking app. It is a heavy, cold sort of quiet. You look at the number on the screen, and even if you knew exactly what it was going to be, a small, sharp knot forms right under your ribs. Your brain instantly starts performing a desperate, involuntary math. If I pay this today, can I push that to next Tuesday? If I skip this, will they notice? You close the app, lock your phone, and toss it onto the bed, trying to throw the feeling away with it. You tell yourself that tomorrow you will be disciplined. Tomorrow you will figure it out. Tomorrow you will stop making the mistakes that keep you trapped here. But tomorrow comes, and the cycle repeats. For years, society has fed you a very specific, very comforting lie about financial struggle. The lie says that if you are stuck in a cycle of lack, it is because you lack willpower. It tells you that you just need to work harder, wake up earlier, brew your coffee at home, and master the art of self-control. It frames your financial situation as a moral failure, a character flaw, or a simple lack of intelligence. But that is not what is happening. The truth is much heavier, and yet strangely liberating. You are not failing because you lack intelligence. Your brain has been biologically altered by the very lack you are trying to escape. When you live with a constant, hovering deficit, whether it is a lack of money, a lack of time, or a lack of stability, your mind enters a psychological state known as scarcity mindset. It is not a philosophy. It is a survival mechanism. It is a biological hijacking that completely rewires how you perceive reality, how you calculate risk, and how you make choices. Think of your brain's cognitive capacity like the bandwidth of an internet connection. On a normal day, when everything is stable, your bandwidth is clear. You can download complex thoughts, plan for next year, weigh the long-term consequences of your actions, and practice patience. But when you are drowning in scarcity, that bandwidth is entirely consumed by a single, screaming priority: survival. When you don't have enough, your brain forces you to focus exclusively on the immediate threat right in front of your face. The unpaid electric bill, the rent that is due in 4 days, the low tire pressure light on your dashboard that you've been ignoring for 3 weeks, because you know a mechanic will find $1,000 worth of problems you can't afford to fix. This constant state of emergency does something devastating to your psychology. It creates what researchers call a tunneling effect. Your focus narrows down to a dark, intense tunnel. You can only see the next 5 feet in front of you. Anything outside of that tunnel, your long-term goals, your savings account, your future self, disappears into utter darkness. And this is where things quietly begin to break. When you are trapped in the tunnel, your brain stops asking, "Is this a good decision for my life 5 years from now?" Instead, it asks a much more primitive question: how do I survive the next 24 hours? This explains the strange, painful contradiction that you have probably experienced 100 times. It explains why, when you finally get a little bit of extra money, you don't save it. You spend it. You spend it on a meal out, a new pair of shoes, or a small luxury that you technically can't afford. And the moment you do it, the guilt rushes in. You tell yourself you're irresponsible. You look at the empty space where that money should have been saved, and you feel a deep, burning shame. But let's look at what actually happened in your mind. Your brain has been running a marathon of stress for months, fueled by the cortisol of constant deprivation. It is profoundly tired. When you have been starved of comfort, pleasure, and peace for so long, your brain views a small luxury not as an irresponsible splurge, but as an oxygen mask. It is a desperate grab for a temporary dopamine hit to quiet the background noise of panic. Your brain trades your future stability for immediate relief because, to a mind trapped in scarcity, the future feels like an abstract myth. The present is the only thing that hurts. But the deeper truth is harder to admit. Living this way strips you of your long-term perspective. When you grow up or live for a long time in an environment where things are always running out, where food, security, or money could vanish at any moment, your subconscious learns a dangerous lesson. If I don't consume this right now, it will disappear. If you save that $50, your brain doesn't see safety. Your brain sees $50 that is waiting to be swallowed up by an unexpected emergency. So, it convinces you to spend it on something you can control before life takes it away from you anyway. It is an act of subconscious self-protection that manifests as financial self-sabotage. Think about that for a second. You are using the exact same behavior to protect yourself that is keeping you vulnerable. It is a perfectly logical response to a deeply unstable world. This constant cognitive overload creates an invisible prison. When your mind is fully occupied by the stress of scarcity, your actual IQ drops. Studies have shown that the mental burden of constant financial strain can reduce a person's cognitive capacity by up to 13 points. That is the equivalent of losing an entire night of sleep every single night. Imagine trying to build a career, negotiate a raise, invest for the future, or start a business while operating on the mental equivalent of permanent sleep deprivation. You are playing the game of life on the hardest possible setting, with a brain that is too exhausted to see the map. Most people never notice what happens next. They don't notice how this mental fatigue alters their voice, their posture, and their choices. When you operate from scarcity, you become profoundly risk-averse in the worst possible way. You don't apply for that higher-paying job because you are terrified of losing the predictable, low-paying job you already have. You don't invest a small amount of money into a new skill because you can't bear the thought of that money failing to return to you immediately. You accept poor treatment, low wages, and stagnant environments because your brain tells you that a bird in the hand is worth more than a forest full of opportunities you might not reach. You begin to make decisions based on fear rather than potential. You look at every opportunity not through the lens of what you could gain, but through the lens of what you could lose. And that silence says more than people realize. It is the silence of a person who has stopped dreaming, because dreaming requires an investment of hope that they simply cannot afford to lose. This is the true tragedy of the scarcity trap. It forces you to become an active participant in your own limitation. It makes you build walls around yourself made of short-term fixes, temporary comforts, and defensive choices, all while you wonder why the ceiling never gets any higher. You become like a person trying to clear water out of a sinking boat using a tiny teacup. You are working incredibly hard. You are exhausted. Your arms ache, and your heart is racing. But because you are so focused on scooping out the next cup of water, you never have the time or the headspace to stop, look down, and patch the actual hole in the boat. The scarcity trap keeps you so busy surviving that it prevents you from ever truly living. But that's not even the real reason why this trap is so incredibly difficult to escape. The hardest part isn't the math. It isn't the bank account. It is the identity that forms beneath it. When you live in this state for long enough, scarcity stops being something you are experiencing and becomes someone you are. You begin to view yourself as a person who just doesn't get lucky. You view financial stability as a club you don't belong to, a secret language you were never taught to speak. Even if you manage to acquire some money, the internal thermostat remains set to freezing. You might find yourself hoarding cash out of terror, refusing to spend even on things that would improve your health or your efficiency. Or, conversely, you might find a way to bleed that money away until you are back at your familiar, painful baseline of struggle. Because as uncomfortable as the struggle is, it is familiar. And to the human brain, the familiar is always safer than the unknown. So, how do you begin to patch the hole in the boat when you are too tired to even think? It does not start with a new budgeting app, a complicated investment strategy, or a motivational speech about grinding harder. It starts with a radical, quiet shift in how you treat your own exhaustion. You have to stop punishing yourself for the decisions you made while you were starving for air. You have to recognize that your past financial mistakes were not evidence of your stupidity. They were the predictable, biological screams of a brain that was operating in a state of high-stress survival. Forgiving yourself is the first step toward reclaiming your cognitive bandwidth. As long as you carry the heavy weight of financial shame, you are dedicating precious mental energy to beating yourself up. energy that you desperately need to clear the tunnel vision. The next step is to deliberately introduce small, intentional pauses into your decision-making loop. When you feel that sudden, urgent impulse to spend money on an immediate comfort, or when you feel the paralyzing fear that stops you from taking a calculated risk, you must learn to step back. Ask yourself a gentle, uncomfortable question. Am I making this choice to build my future, or am I making it to quiet the panic in my present? Just by asking the question, you break the automation. You pull your brain out of the ancient, reactive survival tunnel and force it to look at the landscape. You are reminding your mind that tomorrow is real, that it is coming, and that your future self is a real person who deserves your protection. You must also learn to aggressively protect your mental energy. If you are constantly consuming financial panic, doom scrolling through economic bad news, comparing your lifestyle to the curated wealth of strangers on social media, or engaging in endless, stressful conversations about how hard everything is, you are feeding the scarcity monster. You are keeping your brain in a state of high alert. You need to create pockets of artificial safety. Even if it is just an hour a day where you do not think about bills, where you do not look at your account, and where you allow your nervous system to fully settle. Your brain cannot think long-term if it believes it is constantly being hunted. Escaping the scarcity trap is not a sudden cinematic leap. It is a slow, quiet, and often boring process of reclaiming your mind from the grip of fear. It is about saving $5, not because it will make you rich tomorrow, but because it proves to your subconscious that you are capable of holding on to your future. It is about applying for that job, not because you are guaranteed to get it, but because you refuse to let fear dictate your value anymore. And maybe that changes everything. The next time you open that app in the dark and you feel that familiar cold knot form in your chest, take a breath. Do not look away, but do not look with shame either. See the numbers for what they are, a reflection of your current coordinates, not a reflection of your worth, your intellect, or your destiny. Your brain is not broken. It is just tired of fighting a war it wasn't designed to win. The moment you realize that the trap is in the biology of your stress and not the quality of your character, the walls of the prison begin to thin. You can stop scooping the water, you can take a breath, and you can finally start to build a life that is defined by what you can become, rather than what you are afraid to lose.